Lego is one of those really big pop culture icons that I'm pretty sure everybody knows about. What's interesting is that over the past couple of years, they've actually started to create a new dominance and actually assert themselves as a stronger company by delving into different types of media rather than just toys and building blocks. And it all started with their video game release of Lego Star Wars. And that kind of just started getting the ball rolling of them just, creating more video games, doing this, doing that, doing this and that. I think somewhere down the line they're even going to do a Batman Superman crossover movie in Lego form, so that'll be pretty fun. But Ninjago is actually their first attempt at trying an actual television show. And I'm sure they've done a lot of TV specials in the past, but this is their first real hardcore attempt at doing something that is episodic and in a serialized format. And I was kind of apprehensive about this show at first because the video games really were about main characters who didn't have any dialogue. They didn't speak at all. So to have an entire series where every character talks, it could have gone like in either a really annoying route or it could have gone to something really good. The start of the series is actually pretty interesting. They decided to release a 1 hour special to introduce all the aspects of the show, the ninja, the villain, and basically the whole mythology of it. And they got such a good response from that, they decided that they were going to make a television show out of it. In the special, we meet a character named Kai, who, after his sister has been kidnapped by a skeleton army led by the evil Lord Garmadon, trains with the Spinjitsu master Sensei Wu to become the red ninja to save his sister. During his training process, he actually meets three other ninja, the black ninja Cole, the white ninja Zane, and the blue ninja Jay. Lord Garmadon, in the meantime, is actually looking for 4 golden weapons that he plans to use to conquer all of Ninjago. But eventually the 4 ninja find his hideout and they kick ass as a group of ninja warriors and actually end up defeating Lord Garmadon and sending him to the other world while they take the 4 golden weapons back to the dojo. What's interesting about this special is that the special is very standalone. It really doesn't have very much to do with the series as far as being episodic. The Skeleton Army, I don't think we ever see those guys again. We might see them in passing here or there, but they're never the cronies of the show. So whether this special was going to achieve or not, they could at least say that it wasn't going to lead up to anything. Nobody could get disappointed if it didn't. But luckily it did go over well, and they did start to distribute a series that held 2 seasons. The first season focuses on the 4 ninja when they find a prophecy and discover that a green ninja will rise up and defeat the evil Lord Garmadon once and for all. And the ninja assume that it's going to be one of them, that one of them is going to rise up and become the Green Ninja to defeat Lord Garmadon. However, what they don't know is that Lord Garmadon's young son Lloyd has released a Serpentine army in order to combat the ninja and pretty much continue where his father left off. And basically that whole story arc ends kind of abruptly because it's only a couple of episodes until the Serpentine actually turn on Lloyd and the ninja have to go rescue him, and Lloyd actually joins them on their quest. After that, the next selection of episodes pretty much focus on the ninja unlocking their full potential. However, right before that, Sensei Wu actually uses Mystic Tea in order to teleport himself to the underworld and tell Lord Garmadon that his son is in danger by the Serpentine. So, without their mentor, the ninja have to learn to unlock their full potential, which is apparently them unlocking the fullest extent of their elemental abilities. And each of them get an episode that focuses on this. But the story arc ultimately ends with Kai discovering that Lloyd is actually the Green Ninja, and that the other 4 ninja are meant to protect him. While this is going on, the Serpentine are trying to collect 4 sacred daggers that, when put together, will unlock the location of the Great Devourer, which is apparently a gigantic man-eating snake. And they ultimately succeed in their goal of unleashing the Great Devourer. and the ninja have to stop it. However, even though they use all their abilities and even their elemental dragons, they still can't seem to take this thing down, even when all 4 dragons merge together to become one. Or instead, it's up to Lord Garmadon, who returns to NinjaaaGO City to save his son, where he takes the 4 golden weapons and uses their power to destroy the Great Devourer. And the season pretty much ends with Lord Garmadon disappearing and Lloyd having to come to grips with the fact that he will one day have to face and destroy his father. Already, you can see how the gradual build led up to that, where, at first they really weren't sure where they were going, or at least not to me, but now that I think about it, it actually makes sense that what they were focusing on was important. When Lloyd became the evil emperor of the Serpentine, I was kind of shaking my head at that, because I was like, oh, this is going to be really cartoonish. I didn't want it to be like so kid friendly that it was kind of dumbing down the intelligence of the viewer. However, if you really think about it, it's actually focusing on his arc. The whole season is essentially his arc to becoming the Green Ninja, and focusing on that in a very subtle way, while the other ninja unlock their full potential and have to face off against a giant snake and actually defeat it. And I wasn't really sure that they were going to get a second season, but I know that I wanted one. A lot of really good television shows that only last one season and really do end on a cliffhanger-esque note don't really get a second follow-up, and this one luckily did. Season 2 pretty much focuses on a back to formula basic, where Lord Garmadon is the evil bad guy of this season, while the other 4 ninja and Lloyd have to stop him. In the first episode, the ninja are told that their new mission is actually to train Lloyd in the art of Spinjitsu so he can actually become strong enough to face his father one day. And while this is going on, Lord Garmadon has actually found a way to merge the 4 golden weapons together to become the mega weapon, and he actually intends to use it to rule over all of NinjaaaGO. However, over a various course of different events, a lot of which are kind of interesting, because the mega weapon actually gives Garmadon the ability to wait for anything to happen. However, he does take a little while to learn how to control it. The first major thing that he actually does is bring to life a dead pirate crew and uses them to face off against the ninja, which actually creates a really interesting fanboy moment. But a lot of these episodes kind of wane on the more episodic side, with Garmadon wishing for something to happen, then implementing his own plan, having it fail, and then he pretty much saying, oh, we'll get them next time. However, the writers apparently thought this also, because in one of his attempts to take over NinjaaaGO City and destroy the ninjas, to go back in time and prevent the ninja from actually becoming a team. So he goes back in time and the ninja follow him, eventually culminating in the destruction of the mega weapon and also the golden weapons so that they don't exist. Garmadon, after his mega weapon is destroyed, intends to go to the Island of Darkness, wherein he'll find enough power to take over NinjaaaGO once again. While he's there, he actually unleashes a stone army upon NinjaaaGO. So the stone army is actually an army of essentially soldiers made of stone that are indestructible. They are really, really hard to take down, and it actually takes the ninja a while to bring them down. In that story arc, we actually meet Lloyd's mother, and she tells Lloyd that the reason that she left him by himself for so many years was that she was learning how to prevent the great meeting between Garmadon and Lloyd. After facing off against the Stone Army, the ninja ultimately decide that they're going to go to the Army of Darkness and stop Lord Garmadon from unleashing the Great Evil, or the Dark Lord, as we find out later. While on the island, they actually find a way to unlock Lloyd's full potential, which is essentially a whole ceremony that kind of looks like the Fifth Element. The 4 ninjas stand in corners, Lloyd's in the center, all of a sudden a light beams down. It's really kind of cool and interesting because they get new outfits out of it, and also some nifty looking swords that actually harness their elemental abilities, which is a good step up from the golden weapons, I think. But while trying to stop Garmadon from unleashing the great evil, they actually ultimately fail, and the Dark Lord is released. He actually possesses Garmadon's body in order to have a host to transform into the ultimate dragon form. And he actually does face off against Lloyd at first, but it turns out to be too much for Lloyd to handle at this point, and he ends up getting injured in the process. And then the Dark Lord leaves the ninja on the island to go take over NinjaGO City. And it ultimately culminates with the finale of the series called the Ultimate Spinjitsu Master. The ninja discover that there's actually a mech suit that the first Spinjitsu Master created to combat the Dark Lord, and Lloyd does intend to use it to get off the island. The other ninja actually end up riding their dragon to get off the island. When they get back to NinjaGO City, they find out that everything's in ruin, everything's in complete darkness, and it's just a horrible, horrible sequence of events. In fact, it's discovered that Kai's sister, Nia, was possessed by the darkness and is actually working against the ninja. But what's cool about it is just the overall scope of this. Just everything is going pretty much downhill. They have to even climb a building guarded by the stone army at the bottom to face off against this big, huge thing that's pretty much just spitting evil at them as they're going up. They have to face so many obstacles. And it ultimately ends with all four ninja being occupied by different things. Cole and Jay get hit by darkness levels, so they turn evil, and Zane stays behind to fight them off, while Kai faces off against Nia, so Lloyd is actually pretty much by himself. But it ultimately ends with Lloyd reaching the top and facing off against the Dark Lloyd, who at this point has actually transformed into a giant purple dark dragon, and it looks awesome. He's pretty much like, oh, you're injured, you can't take me on. And he's like, I will try. And he uses all of his abilities to actually change his outfit into gold. And he uses his power to actually form a gold dragon underneath him and faces off against this big darkness dragon, the ultimate good, the ultimate bad. They're fighting each other this entire time. The sequence that ends it is actually really badass. The Dark Lord consumes Lloyd, and he's actually in complete darkness. And so at this point, the Dark Lord's like, you fool, where there's light, there will always be shadow. And Lloyd comes back with this great line where he says, not if my light is bright enough. And he just goes, explosion of light. The darkness is defeated. Everything is just taken out in this giant explosion. Everything's taken back to normal. It looks amazing. And they pretty much end with everything going back to normal. The ninja being brought back together, and actually Garmadon has been relinquished of the evil that was brought onto him from the bite of the Great Devourer, which occurred in the first season. And he's actually back to normal, which is actually really cool and heartfelt and interesting. A little bit too oaky day for my taste, but overall, a good end to a good series, I thought. Now I want to talk about my favorite episodes. I've talked about the pilot episodes of both series. I've talked about the final episodes of both seasons. Now I'm going to talk to you about my favorite episodes of both seasons. For Season 1, I choose Episode 7, TikTok, and here's why. It's pretty much the introduction to the Unlock Your Full Potential story arc, and it actually starts with Zane. Zane at this point in the series is actually kind of looked at as the odd man out. He doesn't interact with the other ninja in a friendly pace. He doesn't really understand the difference between comedy. He takes things way too seriously. He's kind of the stoic guy, and it is revealed in this episode why that is. After following a falcon that has been leading him throughout the entire show, Zane goes into a forest and finds the remnants of a home. While there, he finds blueprints for a model of a robot. That's right, Zane is a robot. He's actually an android created by a scientist. And after he was created, the scientists spent every waking day with him. And when the scientist passed away, he completely erased Zane's memory right before he died. So that's kind of why all this stuff has happened. The reason this is my favorite episode is because I really didn't see this coming. This is the first remnants in the entirety of the show where I was like, holy crap, they are taking this thing seriously. Like, this is really kind of cool and interesting. This is actually the first episode where I was like, okay, I'm going to continually watch this show because there's actually some really good stuff in it. Just to have that kind of story arc where, like, you had a life that you didn't know, your memory was erased, and all of a sudden you find out that you've been not only have you had all this stuff happen to you, but you've actually been living a lie. You are not human, and you're an android. Jay actually refers to him as a ninjroid, which is kind of funny. And he has to save the other ninja later who have followed him into this forest and get attacked by walking tree beasts, essentially, is what these things are. They're like walking on stilts, and they're white, and they're really kind of menacing, and they're beating the crap out of the ninja. All of a sudden Zane shows up, and he's like, I know who I am right now. And he does this whole thing, which is like the first time I've ever seen this, where he just kind of goes completely covered in ice, focuses on all of his elemental ability, and destroys all of those creatures. And it was just awesome. It was really cool. My favorite episode for season 2, I think, has to be Child's Play. Let me give you the synopsis for this episode. Lord Garmadon goes to a museum and tries to resurrect an extinct creature. And in order to do that, he uses the golden weapon to turn back time on the skeleton of the creature. However, while the ninja are there, the beam actually hits them and they're changed into children. And all along this follows this whole type of antics where they get picked up by the police, and the whole episode follows this arc of Lloyd not being respected by the other ninja because he's still a child at this point. And what I like about the episode is just how very much nostalgic it was for me, because there's actually an MMPR episode where this very thing did happen, where the Rangers are changed into children, they're picked up by the police, they have to call somebody. It all pretty much happens that way. And when Lloyd meets up with them again, he actually finds it kind of fun. What is funny to me about this episode is that at this point, Zane has been established as a robot. How does he have a younger version of himself? They mention this in the episode, and it's really just kind of a throwaway line where Jay is kind of like, well, what about you, man? I don't think ninjoids grow younger or something. And he's like, yeah, this doesn't really compute, and he just kind of shorts out for a little bit. That's all we got as an explanation, but at least we got one. I mean, at least they weren't just like, yeah, remember that whole robot thing? We're going to forget about that. But no, they actually do address it. And so when Lloyd meets back with them, he takes them to a comic book writer. And while they're attacked by the demonic creature, which has been brought back to life by Garmadon. And the ninja actually do hold their own against the creature for a little while until Sensei Wu shows up with tea that will turn them back to their proper ages. However, with all of the 5 ninja group together, they realize that the tea will make Lloyd older, and actually he will miss out on most of his childhood. However, they do agree that they need to stop this creature, so Sensei Wu does throw the tea, and it just splashes all over them. And at the end of the episode, Lloyd is turned into an adult, and I love that. It's got this entire thematic look to it where the show's telling us that it's not going to be kid-friendly anymore. This is strictly storyline from this point on, and I love that about that. My overall least favorite episode of the entire show has to be Wrong Place, Wrong Time, where the ninja actually go back in time to stop Lord Garmadon from altering the past. And the reason I don't like this episode is that whenever you deal with time travel, you always raise a bunch of really weird questions, no matter who you are, so I don't really blame the episode for that. I feel like it negates a lot of the things that the season tried to do. For example, at the end of the episode, destroying the mega weapon and destroying the golden weapons, they go back and they find out that they actually erased the mega weapon from existence. And so that thing has never existed, but then if that's true, how is Lloyd still his age? Is this just more time has passed? I really am not sure how that's supposed to go down. And if that is true, does that render the entire Child's Play episode completely useless? Because I really do like that episode, and I don't like the fact that this show just pretty much said, well, no, that didn't happen. But overall, the show is still worth a watch. I mean, it had a pretty shaky beginning, but it ultimately knew what it wanted to be and where it was going and what it wanted to lead up to. What's interesting to me is that according to the show itself, the final episode, the Ultimate Spinjitsu Master, is actually the last episode of season 2, not a series finale. So I'm not sure what they're going to do with that. However, when I was watching the last episode, I saw a promo for Lego's next big television show that they're going to be doing. So, maybe somewhere down the line we're going to get a crossover, but I really don't know about that. But thanks, you guys. This has been my thoughts on Lego Ninjago, the Masters of Spinjitzu.